As you know, I've been building a swimming pool in my back garden completely on my own and from scratch. With the help of friends and family, I've dug the hole, we've installed the pipework, and we've installed the walls. We've even now got an amazing patio around the pool. But for those of you who have already watched the videos, you'll know that efficiency has been at the peak of my worries. I live in the northern hemisphere, which means we don't get much sun for basically about 8 months of the year. Therefore, it's incredibly expensive to heat a swimming pool and keep it warm. We've got a whopping 175mm of insulation in the walls and a decent amount in the floor. But now I need to think about the place where most of the heat is lost, the water's surface at the top. Most solar pool covers are dangerous for children to walk on, and safety pool covers have virtually no insulation in them whatsoever. Plus, I think both solutions are difficult to get on and off the pool. There simply has to be a solution that I can build myself. So this is what I'm going to do. I've built a little prototype. This is what I'm thinking. The pool is roughly kind of this sort of shape. You imagine this string is like a wire. The bit where I'm pulling, right, is a motor putting it in, maybe a little car winch might do the trick, I don't know. So imagine we've got something like this, yeah? Our fixed points are here. And then as we pull this back like that, yeah? That stays where it is and then opens up our pool that's there, okay? And then at the end of the day, when you're finished, the winch lowers down, that pulls out, and then is like that. Got 100mm of insulation that I can fit in there, which is ridiculous. Ted can walk on it without there being any danger. You don't have any kind of ugly, you know, wound up bits of blue kind of bubble stuff and ropes and things like that everywhere. So the considerations I've got to have for this is that it can't lay flat when it's finished, because if you did that and this would pull, this could pull it downwards like that, or even worse, it could break. So we need to find a way of, when it's like that, being cocked up like so. So when the motor starts, it can pull it and it will concertina back out of the way. But also I'm going to have to find the right motor to do that as well. And I've also got to buy a TIG welding aluminium TIG welder thing. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to consider is that we are going to be spanning a distance of over 5 meters. And I'm using box section 30mm aluminium tubing for this. If we just had one tube laying there like that, over time it would start to sag. Therefore, I'm going to make my own mini girders using a lattice technique. Now, if we look at the side of the two cover halves, the problem we have is when it's flat and we start to initiate our motor and start trying to pull those two further surfaces in, it could actually drag them down rather than up in the direction that we want to go. So I think we should be able to initiate the right distance using a jack, which will pop up both halves of the cover. So when we start the motor, it brings that top piece up into an apex. The actual design itself is going to be two halves that are almost symmetrical, with the outsides and the two ends both being made with the lattice work strengthening. Particular consideration for me is where we actually join on the wire that pulls back to the motor, and also where our hinges join the two halves together, and where our hinges join the whole of this unique setup back to the patio. Finishing that off, we'll have a few wheels at the end that will run along as rollers when it's being pulled in or pushed out. Dear Lord, what am I doing? Just standing here going like that for the last couple of days, but I finally got on with it. So this is something I know roughly how it's going to work, but I think once I've got the basis of it built, then I'll be able to figure out how it's going to work, if you know what I mean. There's a difference. I know how it's going to work, but I don't know how it's going to work. So here we go. All the aluminium that I've used in here, I got from Metals for You. They very, very kindly sorted me out in response. All I've got to do is effectively tell you. Now, I know a lot of you are going to go, oh, your TIG welding's dreadful. Guys, I've only been TIG welding for a couple of days. So, you know, it's not too bad. So this is our central piece. There's going to be two of these, and then there's our outer piece here, which is a bit smaller. It doesn't bend in the middle at all, which is really important. Our engine room for pulling in our far side, this wire here is going to stretch all the way over to the far side over there, and that's going to pull that half towards us. The center is going to rise up and it's going to concertina back here. This side of the pool probably won't be usable. As you can see, that is a Stealth V2. I got this off Amazon. I'll leave a link to that below. But don't click on it until later. When it comes to welding kit, I literally bought a hobby welder, a Hitbox one off Amazon. Gotta say, It's doing really well. I'm quite surprised actually. So I've got the Hitbox HBT 250p AC/DC, and then when it comes to gas, we have to use 100% pure argon. So I went to a local company, bought a big old argon bottle because the little 7-litre ones don't last 2 seconds. Obviously got my regulator and my flow meter on here for getting my gas coming through it the right way. Then I've got a load of filler rods, and that's it. So I'm building the second girder here. We're going to have 4 hinge points, 1, 2, 3, 4, that are going to hinge back down to the patio, and this is what we're going to be using for that. I bought these off Amazon as well. Oh, let me get my cricket bag. These are going to be our hinge points. So this plate here will go on the floor, and then the whole lot will lift up like that as it's all being tightened up and everything by our winch. Whew, which is remote controlled. So Emily will be able to do this on her own and all the rest of it. That's what's really important for me on this job. Making these trusses took ages because it's really intricate welding, and also you've got to make sure that everything stays nice and straight. But it did give me the opportunity to think about how am I actually going to seal my folding cover so no debris can get in or out, and also it traps even more heat in. I had a genius idea. I've bought some garage door seals. Check this out. So this stuff here, it's sort of got this huge amount of squidginess to it, and it squidges down like that, and that should be enough with any luck when the weight of everything's down there to sort of nicely breeze tight seal like a draft excluder, so we don't lose heat through evaporation, but also we don't get loads of air blowing underneath there and cooling the water down, so it's a lot more efficient. I've now got to get those cross braces all in. I've got to figure out really how big I want each one of these pieces to be, and then it's just a matter of getting the job done. So here we go, guys. This is the plan. So I've got to put a wheel on here that's going to hold this lot up. Same over there at the other end. The hinges for these are underneath on the bottom. So when this comes up, the idea is that this does that. Yeah. And then obviously the held points are all these down here. That's where these are going to fix in. I'm going to get these chem fixed in roughly there. So when these come up, so like that, we've got space for the motor to be cleared from it. Drilling the holes took a little bit of time, but my Boss drill beast went through it easy, even though it was 20mm porcelain, hard as nails. Made sure that I blew out all the dust, shoved in my chem fix and whacked in my bolts, making sure that each one of the hinges were properly screwed down. These weren't going anywhere. After that, I fixed the receiving hinges onto the actual cover itself, flipped it over and then popped it into place. The great thing about using these big gate hinges that I'm using here is, number one, they're adjustable. These 2 big nuts can be slackened off to allow it to move up and down. But I now noticed that I had a slight problem. At the very start of opening the pull, when the motor is pulling, most of the force is going to be backwards towards the fence. I thought this would be an issue and came up with an idea whereby I could make up some L brackets and actually have an additional support that tied it back into the fence like so. This had the effect of locking in the whole cover so it didn't slide off the pins. This whole job was about identifying problems before they happened, or when they did happen, finding a good solid solution with the amazing tools that I use every day to get it fixed. Right, it's another day, guys. So now I'm getting on the rubber seal that's going to seal up along here when it's laying down. It lives in this little track like so. Hopefully it'll stop bugs and little bits of, you know, tree and things like that from going in the pool. So I'm just going to get all these screwed on now. Look at that. Yeah, just lovely there. And then back here as well. Yeah, it's got a lovely seal. So that's going to stop like little bits and bobs getting in, also should keep the heat in nicely. Let me take 48 seconds to tell you that you can learn plumbing online in a fully structured course and curriculum designed by me from the comfort of your home or shed in your own time to improve your basic plumbing skills and knowledge. From the basics of how to use basic plumbing tools, how to turn the water off, how to join and bend copper pipe and waste pipe, to a fun skills test where you'll make your own test rig, which trainees and apprentices do at MVQ level. There's even a section on the top 5 plumbing jobs that I'll teach you along the way. You can ask questions in the discussion panel next to each lesson, plus get access to the Plumbing Essentials community where you can post pictures of your work and talk about the course and learn from your peers. So if you're a young person looking to get into the industry, an apprentice who wants to brush up their skills, a DIYer interested in plumbing, or even a handyman looking to add plumbing to their services, then look no further than learnplumbingonline.com with yours truly from Plumber Parts. Also, I'm pleased to announce that I'm working with Cat Workwear to bring you one of the best workwear brands out there. I've been wearing the Striver XL 6 6-inch boot in stone. Seriously durable and seriously light. Also, a big thing for me is they're easy to slip on and off when I'm going in and out of customers' homes. Now it's summertime, these go perfectly with my Nexus holster shorts. Light, durable, and loads of pockets to store stuff in. And to cap it all off, I've got my long sleeve t-shirts, so my wife won't keep having a go at me about ruining all the t-shirts she buys me. It really helps my channel if you visit my sponsors, and to pay you back in a small way, you can get 20% off all cat workwear using the code PlumberParts20. So check that link out at the end of the video, and I'll be repping more cat stuff for you to check out in the future. Now I had to install 2 foot-long 12mm studs with bends on the bottoms to take the power plant, the 12-volt winch that I was going to install to power the whole cover. Did this by digging down miles and then filling up a hole with post mix, loads of water, just mixing it all up, shoving them down there and then waiting for it to dry out. After that, I bolted the 12-volt winch on top and got on with installing the hinges that would bring our 2 halves together. Before I knew it, I was popping on our wheels. So we're getting very near test time. I'm just going to put a pulley in here. Pulleys are good because your motors use almost half the power to do, okay, they go slower, but they use half the power to do the job. That's why block and tackles, you see them on sailing boats, especially when you've got like 4 or 5 of them, you can exert a great deal of force through a very small amount of tension and rope. So that's kind of why the old school boys used to do it. Right, let's get it fitted. So I'd made my own lattice trusses. I had designed the framework and welded it all together. I'd installed the hinges, the pulley, and installed a motor that hopefully would have the guts to pull up my pool cover. It was now time for the first test. What a moment in this build. Yeah, I'm shocked as well, everybody. I've got to say, when I did this, the amount of times I said to Emily, I was like, oh my God, I can't actually believe this has worked. All the effort that went into it, and it's worked. That night I did some research on aluminium and chlorine and realised I needed to add a damp-proof membrane. But first I added the new jacks. As you can see, I filmed this on my phone. How about that for YouTube? So there's the jacks installed. It turns out later on I realised I only needed 1. And there are all the brackets that go in there as well. I've double braced those all the way down. And the great thing yet again about using those particular types of hinges is that they're fully adjustable. I also added some extra diagonals from the main pulling point that stretched all the way over, making sure that we got a nice distribution of load when the motor was running. Look at all those little bits in there. Oh guys, isn't this just the best? I'm so proud of this job and so proud of this video. Oh, will it take the weight of the cladding? As you can see, I've got a damp-proof membrane that I've put on here, okay? Aluminium's supposed to be fine if it's not submerged in chlorinated water, but I just thought it'd be a good idea for the cost of a little bit damp-proof to just put that on the underside just to protect the aluminium frame from the water underneath. Once this was done, I put the 2 sides back together, slotted in our rings into our pins, and then drilled some holes through each one of the pins and put a locking screw and nut to ensure that they wouldn't slide apart in operation. Before, yet again, giving it a test and also giving you guys a little look underneath to see how the pulley system and wire works. Right, so now I've got to fill in these gaps with this stuff, 100mm insulation. So I've got to fill them in and then hopefully slide them down this bit. To cut it, I've bought an electric hot knife off Amazon. That's why I've got this mask on. I don't really want to be breathing the plastic fumes off this lot. Let's see how she goes, shall we? Oh wow, look! And all the gaps I'm just going to fill with expanding foam, and that'll also act as kind of a fixer for it as well. But I mean, with the best insulated pool, way better than that other stuff. Well, I can highly recommend that piece of kit. Wow, look at this. to be able to do like a nice neat little cut. I mean, I know it's not like spot on, but without having any crap anywhere, all you got to do is make sure you wear a mask. Look at that, properly in. That little bit there we'll just sort out with a little expanding foam later on, and that'll all tie it all in. It'll look great. Well pleased. I'm now going to be using some X-Pro stick seal. That's all on now. So look at this X-Pro, it's just literally, it's not going anywhere, this stuff. Cut a few little holes here to take our jacks, because we have to jack this up to get it started when it comes up. I don't really know whether this is going to work. I still don't know, because I've tried it just as a frame and it's been fine. But now what I've got to do is get all this cladding on. So we've got this cladding. We're going to lay sheets of cladding over here. On this side, I don't know if I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, because I'm still a little bit worried about the weight. So then the final bit, as you've probably noticed, there's now a fence there to stop Ted getting up here, because he's a little, I don't know, he's like Roger Bushell in it, and the Great Escape. So these bits here that I'm getting out, I've already got one out here, and what they're going to do is just make good these ends. That'll pop in there like that, and then that looks nice, doesn't it, Max? I have bought a top hat bit for that middle seam, but I'm going to see first whether I actually need it. I'm not worried about a bit of rainwater going in, it's no big deal, but everything's looking really, really good now. One thing I did do was change over the wheels on each end for a slightly different type of wheel, and also I updated the structure and housing around that wheel to make it stronger. This I did after a few tests without the cladding on. So that's kind of what we've got to do. Like half that out. We'll do that. I'll clamp it down, and literally I'll have to drill sort of through there. Ready? It was now time from that very first cardboard prototype to the first drawings to doing all the welding and getting all of this together. It was now time to power up the motor and see whether my folding motorised pool cover that's insulated and hardtop works. I made a small drill bit for my Bosch SDS drill and wanged up the jacks. Quick, easy, smooth, no debris in the pool water, no loss of chemicals, no loss of heat. Would it work? Here's the controller. All I've got to do is pull. Here we go. My idea from that little bit of cardboard with some string on it all the way to now actually working. How about that? Right then guys, so there we go. The pool cover is now done. It's looking absolutely quality. It works. I'm amazed that this is ever like an idea that I had in my head, something that I designed myself. I'm so proud of myself to actually got this done. Sometimes, guys, you need to be proud of stuff. Now, you might notice that the pool is filled, the liner is in, it's all warm and all going. Now, if you're a member of the channel, you'll be able to watch the process of this going in right now by clicking on this. But if you're not a member, you won't be able to see it for another few weeks. Members get first dibs. So for those of you who want to watch us get the liner in, which is a difficult job, believe me, click on this link now. For those who haven't, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, and remember to hold tight.